All right, well, welcome councillors and members of the community viewing via live stream to our special meeting today, Friday the 29th of May, commencing at 3:30 to consider a change of date for the Yeppoon Show holiday. Before we get into the agenda proper, I'd like to acknowledge the Darrimble people, the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, and their elders past, present and emerging. We have an apology from Councillor Hutton. Can I have a mover and a seconder to accept that apology, please? Councillor Mather, Councillor Bello. All in favour? Thank you. Okay, now, councillors, we're meeting today to discuss only because, as you know, in a special meeting, the topic is the only topic that can be discussed. So we're meeting today to discuss the change of date for the Yeppoon Show holiday. Now, as you'll recall, at our briefing session on the 5th of May this year, there was discussion around changing the show holiday until later in the year, but we were informed by the department at that stage that it would potentially take 3 months for that approval to occur. So we decided to leave the show holiday at its original time in June. Pardon me. Last week, we had correspondence from the department to say that the exhibition show holiday in Brisbane was extended to the 14th of August 2020 and that councils could contemplate extending their show holiday to that date. So hence our minds turned to that date for consideration for the Yeppoon show holiday. Now, in order to honour our promise to the community, we went to the community over the last 2 days with a short, sharp poll to determine what the community's view on this matter is. Now, I acknowledge that it was short notice for the community, it was short notice for us in that sense. And I also acknowledge that not everyone has access to social media, and so some people may have been disadvantaged in terms of their ability to participate in that poll. I certainly apologise for that, but it was an opportunity for us to survey the community as we have promised from day one in this council. Our mantra is to, wherever possible, get the view of the community when we're making decisions. And that was simply the reason why we went down this path in the first place. So by the 14th of August, if it's resolved today to extend the show holiday to the 14th of August, the advantage of that for the tourism and hospitality sectors within our Shire, as well as a number of others, will be amplified. The second round of the COVID-19 restrictions will be in play, and so there will be opportunity for larger gatherings and more people to come to our Shire to take advantage of our hospitality, to take advantage of our tourism ventures, to take advantage of our wonderful parks, gardens, beaches, caves, etc. So, councillors, without further ado, we have a recommendation that reads as follows: that council resolves to firstly request the Queensland Government to repeal the gazetted special holiday of the 12th of June 2020, and secondly, pursuant to section 4 of the Holidays Act 1983, to request the Queensland Government to appoint a special holiday for Livingstone Shire for the 14th of August 2020. Now, acknowledging that there's been some verbal advice received today from the industrial relations specialist around the potential risk of losing the 12th of June date. We've received no formal advice in that regard, so we won't encompass that into the recommendation. So the recommendation before you, councillors, is as I have just read, and I'll go over it again, that council resolves to firstly request the Queensland Government to repeal the gazetted special holiday of the 12th of June 2020, and secondly, pursuant to section 4 of the Holidays Act 1983, to request the Queensland Government to appoint a special holiday for Livingstone Shire for the 14th of August 2020. Now, given that approximately 67% of those in our community who have voted agree to change the date, I'm looking for a mover for that recommendation, please. I'll go to the mover and seconder first, council, and then we can have some discussion. So moved, Councillor Lynch. I'll second that. Now, Councillor Lynch before we go to you for your discussion around this, are you happy to entertain a question from Councillor Mather? Councillor Mather.
I believe because we've made the changes, and it is legislative change in this case, involving the minister, I believe we need to have a clause in there that actually says why we're doing it. Because the survey to the people does not include that. They don't understand why we're doing this.
Councillor Mather, I acknowledge your point completely. I think that can be covered in the letter that the CEO sends, which will include the recommendation. We aren't just going to send the recommendation for the minister to consider. We're going to obviously send a letter with the background around this as well.
Mr Mayor, if the mover and the seconder were willing to add that in there to say that the reasons given will be provided to the minister, but the public doesn't know, those who haven't read the Facebook or whatever means of communicating, they have no idea, because I'd have to say that the question was very brief. It does not explain why we're changing the date from this to that. It just says, do you agree that we go from this date to that? It does not tell the people why. And this resolution does not give any explanation either. So I believe it's deficient.
Councillors, any comment on that? Councillor Bello.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Mather, for the question, and thank you, Mr Chairman. There is a motion which perhaps may help to elaborate with a little bit more detail, which Mackay Regional Council did pass, and I'd be happy to read that out, and perhaps with the mover's acceptance we could intertwine them both, with your permission, Mr Chair.
I'll go to the mover, Councillor Lynch. Sorry, what are you saying, Councillor? You use your microphone. Microphone, Councillor.
Do we need to suspend debate until such time as we've heard this and decided what we want and what we don't?
Turning it on.
I would suggest for completeness, Mr Mayor, that you do suspend standing orders to have that discussion and then resume the orders in order to have the formal debate.
I'd be happy to move
decision.
that, Mr Chairman, as a procedural.
All right, so Justine moved, Councillor Mather seconded Councillor Eastwood to suspend standing orders for further discussion. All in favour? Thank you. All right, Councillor Mather. Councillor Bello.
If I could just pick up on, it's an interesting question. Mackay Regional Council passed 2 days ago that due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and in line with a suggestion from the Queensland Premier that the 2020 only Mackay Regional Council supports the moving of the Mackay Agricultural Show holiday from Thursday the 18th of June 2020 to Friday 14th of August 2020 to make a long weekend and encourage tourism support. Further that, a formal application be lodged with the Minister for Education and Industrial Relations to request the change. So I guess that resolution perhaps reflects what you're alluding to. So I guess...
Yes, it does, Mr Mayor. I haven't seen the resolution before, but it sounds like exactly the COVID Act's actually prompted this to happen because we're looking after the business people and considering their needs. That is the reason why we're doing this. I think it covers all of that. Otherwise, it's very naked, it's very deficient.
Any other comments, councillors?
No.
Mr Acting CEO, if we move this, or if we alter this recommendation, what's the implication for your staff to get this off this afternoon?
It would mean that somebody, if we just redo it would require us to redo the letter which has been drafted to go to the state. Beyond that, there's no implication.
So the letter that's drafted for the state, does it provide background to the resolution?
The letter to the state references the fact that the Premier announced the exact wording I'll get for you, Mr Mayor. announced that the People's Day for the Royal Show would be changed to become the People's Long Weekend on the 14th of August, and that the state had also extended an invitation to councillors wishing to change their nominated show holiday to Friday 14 as well. So it sets the context being the Premier's offer.
Councillor Mather, are you happy with that, or you prefer that to be changed?
That's not enough, Mr Mayor. What McKay has done is what I think needs to be happening here. That's background to it leading into that. But the reason why we're doing it is to actually to support the local businesses. And we're quite prepared, most of us, half of us were quite prepared to leave it as it were, the 12th of June. But considering the councillor has put up a case to say that our local people are suffering and this would not benefit them at all, and that's our whole objective, is to benefit the people that we represent. And that's fine, we can add that. And it's a matter of amending the word on the board to include the Mackay Council wording and just making a few changes to the letter. Adam,
All right, councillors, you have the wording on the screen there from the Mackay Regional Council.
I'll redo it.
So we'll actually change the wording, so it will read as follows, I presume, that due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in line with the suggestion from the Queensland Premier, that for 2020 only, Livingstone Shire Council supports the moving of the Imperial Show holiday from Thursday the 14th of June,
Yep.
to Friday the 14th of August. Make a long weekend and encourage tourism support. And further, that a formal application of law with the Minister of Education and Industrial Relations to request the change.
Are you on? That's it.
All right, so I'll read that again. Mr. Bacon, you're give me some wording? Okay, all right. So, you happy to come out of, to resume standing orders, councillors? Have we all had our say on this matter?
I'm happy with that, Mr Chairman, I'm happy with the
Happy
wording.
with that potential wording, all right? Councillor Eastwood, happy to come out?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
No worries, all right. Okay, so moved Councillor Mather to resume standing order, seconded Councillor Friend. Thank you, Councillor Friend. All right, Councillor Lynch. Councillor Lynch, would you mind that you'd like to speak to your to this new motion anyway? It's not substantially different to what we proposed. All right.
Question, Mr Mayor, is Councillor Lynch happy with the new motion that she's moving in its current form,
We'll
in
get
its
it
new
up on the
form?
screen first. Councillor Mather, we'll have a look.
Should it be a procedural motion?
No, just put it up on the resolution recommendation.
Yep. Is what, sorry? Yeah.
The recommendation now, councillors, is that due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and in line with a suggestion from the Queensland Premier that for 2020 only, Council supports the moving of the Rockhampton Agricultural Show holiday from the 12th of June 2020 to the 14th of August 2020 to make a long weekend and encourage tourism support for local operators and businesses. In doing so, Council resolves to firstly request the Queensland Government to repeal the gazetted special holiday of 12 June 2020 and secondly, pursuant to Section 4 of the Holidays Act 1983, to request the Queensland Government to appoint a special holiday for Livingstone Shire for the 14th of August 2020. Okay. Councillor Lynch, as the mover of this, are you happy with that recommendation?
Yes, I am.
All right. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Lynch?
Yes, I would. So I just would like to give a little bit of a timeline because we're live. It'd be great for people to hear what we have to say in regards to why we're here today. So on Sunday the 22nd of March 2020 at approximately 6 p.m, the federal government announced very quickly and very sternly the major changes in many business industries across Australia due to COVID-19. These were very strict social distancing rules and they would apply. Overnight, we saw industries such as pubs, clubs, hotels, nightclubs, gyms, accommodation providers, sporting groups, cafe and restaurants. They were directly affected by what the federal government were putting into place. Overnight, business owners had no option but to terminate their staff or heavily reduce their staffing levels. Today, as a nation, we should be proud of our achievements. We've followed COVID-19 restrictions well and our numbers are quite low. But sadly, as a direct result, industries have suffered financially and emotionally on a scale that has seen a nation, a state, a shire tread in very uncharted waters. Our hardest hit industries have certainly been the tourism operators and accommodation providers and the hospitality industry. To date, it has been 10 long weeks since we have seen those businesses have little or no revenue in their industries. We did have a discussion on the 11th of May as a council and we had decided that the 12th of June we would go ahead with holiday, which was great. But on May 21st, the state government, Anastasia Palaszczuk, had announced that for this year only we could change a public holiday. She said if any council wished to change or postpone their nominated show holiday to a later date because of COVID-19, I encourage them to write to me with that request. Any such requests will be given favourably consideration in the circumstances. Until any changes are made, show public holidays will remain as they are. As everyone is aware, the noted date for the show holiday on the 12th of June comes with the same restrictions we are in now. You can't go to the pool, you can't go camping, you can't go to a nightclub, you can't go to a cinema. You can go to a restaurant, but you can only sit there with 9 other people. It makes that day very limited. We did have a poll with Livingstone Shire Council with over 1,700 people responding to that poll within 24 hours. So that was a great response. And yes, I do agree with you, Councillor May, that not a lot of people would have seen that. Unfortunately, we're restricted by how Facebook works. But there was a lot of shares on that poll. We got a favourable yes to that poll, which was about nearly 67%. We requested that we could change the show holiday to 14th of August. I even was shown one particular comment from that Facebook post that said, and he was a resident of Bundaberg, and he said, "Great to see that Livingstone Shire Council has some foresight to consider this. Our show holiday is today and is of no use to anybody." So as a council, it's about supporting those industries that have suffered terribly in the last 10 weeks. We need to be seen as a council to support these industries, to give them hope, to get some cash injection back into their businesses. Sure, we could go ahead with a holiday, but what can we do? If you've got your camper van ready to go camping, you can only go Saturday because Friday we are still held by restrictions. But I do understand this. I do understand people may have made plans, and I'm really mindful of that. But I'm asking you all to be pliable for that one day, like these industries have to have been pliable for the last 10 weeks. So I ask you consider this favourably in support of those tourism and hospitality industries.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the recommendation, please?
Mr Chairman, is it possible that all the members have an opportunity to speak today?
That opportunity will be afforded, Councillor May, that I'm following process at the moment, going through positive, negative.
As the seconder, you have first privilege.
So as seconder, I'll speak to the motion as well. Now, initially, and on a personal level, I don't mind admitting that I wasn't in favour of the recommendation. I certainly in the poll voted against it. But I'm sticking to my mantra and basically supporting this because I gave an undertaking to the councillors and I gave an undertaking to the community that based on what the community wants and wishes, I will support it. So on that basis, I am voting in favour, or will be voting in favour of this recommendation. I acknowledge Councillor Lynch's points and support those, and I also acknowledge that there will be some people that have made arrangements for the 14th of June who will now be potentially disadvantaged. But it's essentially the result from the poll that has, I think, swayed all of us in terms of how we're going to vote for this. And I would, again, recommend to the councillors that they take note of what the community has asked us to do. Now, I'll open the floor for comments and I'll go around the room starting with Councillor Eastwood.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Stay on. There we go. Magic. I too would like to support this motion. On Facebook the last couple of days we've just seen such an overwhelming result. Okay, it was only a small poll, but approximately double the amount of people are in favour for moving the show day. Now this is really impactful to us, you know, like I'm a small business, there's small business owners here, but it's really important that we look after not only our small businesses, but also make this holiday a holiday that people can travel and go, whether they're supporting our small businesses or not, they can actually go a little bit further abroad, or they can come. We've got Mackay having the show holiday on the 14th. We might get a few people from the northern central Queensland regions come down to see us. The 12th of July, sorry, the 12th of June just wasn't going to work. The restrictions didn't end to approximately midnight, which kept us on level 1 right until the Saturday. And then, even on the Saturday, we're only allowed to have 20 people in our restaurants. It's just no good for anybody. Whereas there's a really good chance that, I think they're saying on the 10th of July, it's planned that they open up to level 3, which will mean 100 people in our restaurants. It means that people are a lot more open to go to recreational areas and pools, etc. And for a place like Livingstone, with such a diverse and fantastic outdoor arena, it just makes absolute common sense. And look, I'm sorry if you've made plans for this weekend. I just ask that if you have, that if the people out there have, that they just be mindful of the businesses that are doing it tough, and that this is going to be a great asset to them and to the future of their businesses. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Eastwood. Councillor Mather, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Like other members in this council, we've tossed with this one for quite some time since we made our decision. And let me remind you that this decision happens every year. We struggle with this every year because Rockhampton seems to go the opposite way to us every time. And we just need that comparison and that united front to be able to give everybody, both Rockhampton and Livingstone, the same holiday so everybody can enjoy it and we can go to use each other's company. I've struggled with this as well, and I feel for the people like other members that we have made a decision and people need certainty so they can make arrangements, holidays, bookings, whatever it may be. And I was prepared to stay with that. And on the other hand, I'm thinking, we've got people out there who are trying their best to provide services to us. They're struggling. They only have so many people come through their door. COVID restrictions, and we adhere to that. We've got to put ourselves in their shoes. We've got to say, well, how would we feel? Is this going to benefit them by moving it? Or if we leave it where it is? You've got to look at it both ways. Structure it. Think it forward. If we were going to move it, I would have hoped that it would fall on, we could make the call and have it fall on this Shire's 117th birthday, which would make proper sense because that was the instruction we had. You can move it if you find another day that you can celebrate. We thought, well, that's good. We've got a birthday coming up for this Shire, let's use it for that. But the Minister has given us a date of the 14th of August, which is a week later than our birthday, but that's all right. I believe we can make them both fit because that's what it's all about, uniting the Shire, bringing the Shire into prominence and saying, we're here for the people, and that means all of the people. So I'm going with the motion because I believe that our first responsibility is to the people of the Shire who are providing the service. And I do apologise, as other members have said, because some people have obviously booked and it's unfortunate and I wouldn't call it our fault, but we make these decisions based on the information we have at the time. And we've got a moving target. And that's why we have to keep, flexing the decisions that we've got where possible. And I think the decision to follow the motion would be in the interests of the Shire, not only the business people, but the interests of the Shire. And it will show the people that we're not afraid to say, yes, we made a mistake, but was it a mistake or was it because they were the cards dealt to us at the time? And we've gone with that because of the information we had at the time. But the Minister has said the 14th if we're going to change, and if that's the date, that's the time limit we need for the businesses to start getting some business through the doors, that's what we have to do. I don't make any apologies for that. So in sitting down, I would say that, yes, I'll support the motion, Councillor Ireland, Councillor Lynch, but consider too that while we're changing it to the 14th of August, that I would like to think that this Shire, in taking that holiday, can and will celebrate the 117th birthday of our Shire, because we're promoting our Shire, we're supporting our Shire and the people in it and the business houses. So let's demonstrate it by the birthday. Give or take a few days, let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mather. Councillor Bello, would you like to make some comments?
Yeah, very briefly, Mr. Chairman, and can I just thank you very much for your strong leadership on calling this meeting here today and facilitating what is a very central debate that this table needed to have. So I applaud you for that and thank you very much. And commend the mover of the motion, Councillor Lynch, for her hard work. I remember reading a book from Bob Catter who said the most frustrating thing in politics for him in his life is the lack of time or the shortness of time that you have to make decisions on things. You never seem to get enough time to spend on something to do it well. This is what we are faced with and will be faced with in our life as community leaders. Things will come across our table that we want more time, we want a longer survey, we want to be able to hear from everybody. Sometimes you just don't have time. And I applaud you for all making the decisions based on your best judgment. If I look at this website here, if you'll bear with me, it's a Queensland Government COVID Small Business Mental Health website. It says the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic is having unprecedented effects on small businesses, operations and finances, and on the mental health and wellbeing of business owners and staff across Australia. Our decision here today is very much about doing what we can to support those small businesses most impacted, and I commend you for putting them first and foremost. To the people who are impacted, like ex-Premier Peter Beattie, who was a master of apologising, I apologise to you for the impact on you, the inconvenience. You can ring me up and let me know how disappointed you are, but I believe this is the right decision to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bello. Councillor Friend.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. After Council undertaking this Facebook poll for transparency to the community in relation to this Council decision today, 67% voted yes out of approximately 1,700 people. This engagement in itself reached approximately 14,000 people. Those people did not vote. So this would indicate to me that the people trust that Council will look after their interests. When we look at Livingstone's voting population of approximately 24,000 people, the percentage of true votes was 7%. 7% of the voting population voted, and we base our decisions on the affirmative. I've had great concerns for the whole of Shire, including schools, essential workers who haven't had a day off work and were perhaps looking forward to this holiday, large industry and retail outlets who this decision today may impact. Engagement should be proactive and not reactive. The whole of Shire relies on Council to make quality judgments. Unfortunately though, as we all know, there wasn't enough time for an in-depth engagement. Councillor Lynch, as the portfolio holder for tourism, and Councillor Bello, you both have placed on the table a convincing argument for the change in this public holiday. I'm wishing to send a strong message to our whole of Shire and to the Queensland State Government that our council is not a divided council. This is why my vote will be yes to changing this show holiday to August. COVID-19 restrictions will be lifted by that stage, and my hope is that as a whole Shire, we may celebrate all of our communities, not just Yeppoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Friend. Very well articulated. Okay, councillors, the moment has arrived. You have the motion in front of you. We have a mover and a seconder. Can I have a show of hands for support, please? So let the record show that that's actually a unanimous vote, Justine. Thank you very much. Now, councillors, as this is the only item available for discussion on this agenda, there will be no further or no entertainment of any other items of business. So thank you for your attendance, and thank you for your conscience, and thank you for your consideration of the community. And we'll close the meeting at that. Have a great afternoon.